fact, most of my, I used to be senior manager of talent development in Burger King Corporation, and it was amazing. They thought all of us from HR did the exact same job. They had no sense of who did what. We were all employee relations as far as they were concerned. They didn't get it, you know, talent management versus talent acquisition versus employee relations versus general. We were all the same as far as they were concerned. They didn't, I mean, some were savvy, but the rest, we were HR. I mean, in fairness, when I go to IT, I probably do the same thing. Not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that that's their perception. So, the question is, if you're going to track metrics and you want to have an impact, you have to know what has an impact. And it's not what we think has an impact. It's what the client thinks has an impact. If I were to be a consultant for you and tell you what I think you need instead of what you actually know you need, that would probably not work out very well, right? You'd be annoyed, I'd be hard selling something that wasn't very good. Instead, it's what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and then let's figure out how to go about doing it and what we need to measure and determine if what we did solved the problem. It's not, I see your problem and here, let's fix it. Because I don't think that works very well. So the question becomes, what do they care about? Well, they care about their goals, their objectives, business strategy, etc. So now, I hit a magic word. Strategy. How many of you have been in a lecture in the last 5 years in one of these SHRM events, webinars, whatever, where they say we have to be more strategic? How many of you have heard that we have to get a seat at the table? Okay, here's a table. Have a seat. Let me tell you, we are strategic when we choose to be, and we are already sitting at the table. The problem is that what we're saying is not interesting, so they're not listening. Okay, who has ever read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? Anyone? Okay, what is the primary lesson that you got out of that book? Anyone, in one sentence, what do you think? What do you have to do in order to win friends and influence people? Do you talk about yourself? No, you got to get them talking about the things they're interested in, and then you got to listen. And then you got to have rapport to prove that you're listening and kind of go back and forth and have an exchange. So when you talk to your clients, don't you think we ought to do the same thing? Why do we start talking to them about the HR processes that we have to do because of compliance or because of documentation or because of... They don't care about that. They like that. I have a problem. Are you going to help me with this problem or not? That's what they care about. I'm just being honest. You know it's true, right? I mean, yes, they'll listen a little bit because they have respect for you. But the reality is that at the end of the day, if you're never going to get any sway, if you don't talk to them about the things that they think are important, if you can latch onto their goals and say, if I can help you improve performance in your goal or solve a problem, would that be valuable to you? Because guess what? I think part of the problem is the people. Do you agree that part of the problem is probably the people? They're always going to say, yeah, of course we know that part of the problem is the people. We get that. So let's sit down and talk about ways we could do that. And that leads to being more strategic, more oriented towards an organizational business strategy. That business unit's goals, or that function's goals, or whatever, and now you're starting to talk about problem solving. By the way, I'm going to sprinkle a magic dust across the room. You just became internal consultants. Guess what? You've always been internal consultants. You just didn't know it. Maybe you did. Maybe it's part of your title. But as soon as you start putting on that internal consultant hat, the approach changes. You need my assistance because I offer a skill set that you don't have. And even if you don't understand what my skill set is, if we just talk, I can probably find things that I can help you with. And then when I point out that I could be helping you here, you'd probably be very happy if I could actually help move your needle and help you achieve your goals. Don't you think they would be interested in having that conversation? Do you think they might even find money to budget for it? Imagine all HR companies across the world had to switch over to zero-based budgeting. ZBB. Everyone hear this? Where every year you start at zero, no budget. You have to prove any initiative you're going to do is worth the investment. I went through that because Burger King Corporation, when I was there, was acquired by a venture capitalist company. You know what VC companies do? They restructure, they downsize, they go back to basics, they cut headcount, and they take away all budgets. And then they make a profit by magic accounting, no, not magic, but by doing all those things. And then trying to go and build up the business again. But then you have to prove that you should get money for anything. Organizational survey, employee engagement survey, well, we probably should do it. It's the time in the cycle. We just went through a massive downsizing. Do you think they're going to let us do this? I don't know. Well, we don't have any money because they took all our money away. Yeah, I know, which means now we got to go convince them that we do want to do an employee engagement survey. We're not even sure we're going to like the news. But we probably should do it. It's the right thing to do, don't you think? Yeah, I think so. Okay, fine. So let's go have the conversation. So we convince them. Now we're having the conversation I with my boss, because I've been put in charge of the employee engagement survey. Okay, I've thought about it, and I think we have to add a couple of really critical questions to the survey from last year. Question number one, I think, is the most critical one. If you had the opportunity to take a similar job in another company for the same pay, would you do it? She said, we can't ask that. I said, why not? That's what we want to know. Do you want to leave? Isn't that, because if you want to leave, you're not engaged. Yes? Yeah. If you could, basically, if you could make the same money, do the same job somewhere else, would you go? If they say yes, they don't want to be here. So why would we want them to stay? And so we went back and forth, did include the question, and guess what? After the survey was over, the company gave packages to anyone who wanted to go. Small package. Anyone can take it, no questions asked. If you don't want to be here, this is your opportunity to walk away, take some money, and go find something else to do. Those of you who stay, at least you'll be, loyal, engaged, etc. A lot of people took a package. I'm just saying. Half the company's headquarters got downsized, roughly. Yeah, of course a lot of people took the package, because they thought they were next. And they weren't too happy with the new hierarchy and the way things were working. But guess what? Everyone who stayed was engaged. The problem with thinking about what you've been doing and then measuring it is that you're assuming that the world is going to continue the way it's always going. And so you're sort of planning as if you're driving by looking in the rearview mirror. You're not looking to what's coming. You're looking at what's been. You're assuming that life is going to stay the same. But that's not the way it works. You know that. Anyone here work in the oil or energy industry? Okay. How's oil prices going now? Right? They've been tanking for like a year, roughly, almost. I mean, everything kind of got turned around. And we could pick any industry. It was 2008, 2009, 2010, we'd be talking about the financial industry, right? When one of the derivatives for the, for the mortgages get all kind of blow up, right? That was 2010, 2009, I forget. But you know what I mean? The economy goes in cycles, and there's always some industry where suddenly everything kind of goes crazy. And now there's no budget, there's no money, everyone's leaving, etc. So you can't assume it's always going to be the same way. So between the 2 points, A, tie it to the strategy. B, solve their problems. Okay, 3 points. C, don't assume the world's always going to be the same way as it does, because what I can promise you is one thing, change. Hopefully in the direction you want. That's the goal of metrics, right, in predicting. I happen to like George Burns, I know, so this is just sort of a little bit of a tribute to him. I'm sure he's not the only one who said it, but I like the quote. So, what are predictive analytics anyway? We know what metrics are. What's the difference between predictive analytics and metrics?
Metrics are what happened. Predictive is what you're expecting to happen.
Right. It's predictive, exactly. Metrics are tracking what is already occurring. In other words, it's history. It's in your database. Predictive analytics is using that to try to guess, estimate, formulate, use mathematical models, whatever forecast, whatever term you like, to determine what's likely to be in the future, considering the current trajectory, trend, etc. Do we have any skill sets around this? How many of you have taken a math class in your life? How many of you have taken a statistics class in your life? Okay, right, okay. I'm not saying it's been recently. I hear you. But you do have the skills to do some of this. How many of you would say you could do some stuff in Excel? Okay, almost everyone. How many of you have ever used a formula in Excel? Most of the room. Great, congratulations. You now know most of what you need to know to do this. I'm going to show you the steps. So prediction gets into mathematical models. Technically, it's called a regression equation. Okay, we're not going to go that far into it quite. I'll get you there, but I'm not going to make it look so fancy. I'm going to keep it simple for you. But you don't have to be an expert on this. Where you get into R and R change and standard errors and all that stuff. Yes, some of you who are like really stats pros are going to try to go down that path, and that's great. But you don't have to. So, predictive analytics can help you solve your internal client's problems. That's the real point. Metrics only track what's going on, but if you can help them predict what the right direction is, then you've got something you can give them some oomph with. So, I have to tell you, getting into this, I know is uncomfortable for some of you, because not everyone plays with numbers all the time. Let's face it, HR is not typically a number-driven function. People don't wake up one morning and say, I love statistics, so I'm going to be an HR director. Doesn't happen. Let's be honest. When you were 5, you never thought that when I grow up, I'm going to be in HR. That was. Come on, we all want firemen and teachers and nurses and doctors and policemen and all these other things that we see on TV and people we know. So the reality is that we didn't probably think we were going to be in this in the first place, right? So when you get into things like metrics and stats, and you have to get comfortable with the fact that it's a little bit different, it's a little bit adventuresome, it's a little bit like, I don't know, going into the outback, you know what I mean? Like if you were out wandering through Australia, looking for kangaroos. And so you have to kind of keep in mind, you know, it's a bit different. You know what I'm saying here? Does that make sense? Okay, so, and then you have to get mentally prepared. I mean, you really just gotta get into it, you know what I mean? You gotta really be ready to go out there and wow, and be willing to take some risk, and you can do it. Now, when big data, lots of information, meets HR analytics, predictive analytics, you can start to see patterns. When you look at large enough numbers, you always get this. Anyone know what this is? Who took a SAS class? Okay, what do you think? What does this mean? What does it look like? It's a histogram, right? And the pattern of it is a bell curve. Yeah. How many of you guys were scored on a bell curve in school? Right. It's not that complicated. So if you draw the line, there you go, a bell curve. What is a bell curve? By definition, the middle is exactly average. And the further you go out to the ends, the less likely you are to be there. Because by default, most people are going to be average thereabouts. This is not Lake Wobegon, where everyone is more intelligent than the average person and more beautiful. That's not the way that it works. By default, if you look at a large enough sample of anything, most of us are going to be average. So why are we always so upset when we look at scores and oh my gosh, most of the people are scoring in the middle range? It's just the way it is. Who knows what correlation is? Anyone ever hear that term? Okay. So I have to be careful because I know I'm starting to wander into like deep statistic territory. You know what I mean? So a correlation is a metric or a number which shows a relationship between two numbers. The idea being that when one number goes up, the other goes up, meaning they're correlated. Or when one goes up, the other goes down, which means they're negatively correlated. You've heard the saying, opposites attract? Not in math, it doesn't. Opposites go in opposite directions. Okay? And so if you see a negative sign, like a -1, that is a absolutely opposite correlation. So when one goes up, the other goes down, or vice versa. If they both are positive, they're going up or down together. Now the 1 plus 1 or minus 1, the 1 is the extremes of the metrics. There's never really a correlation of 1 or minus 1. It's always like 0.10 or 0.20 or minus 10 or minus 20 or minus 50, something like this. The number represents the strength. The further away it is from 0, the stronger the correlation is. The minus sign or the plus sign is just telling you what direction. Do they go up or down together because they're positive, good buddies? Or are they opposites and they go in opposite directions? Does that make sense? So, this is weight and height of the U.S. average Americans. Population of 17,000 basically were in this sample study, okay? So, if you look up the y-axis, the up and down axis, it's height. If you go on the left and right, the x-axis is weight. So clearly, there are people who are heavier and not that tall, right? So they would be down here. And there are also people who are very tall but not that heavy. They would be kind of all the way top left. If you're sort of more or less proportioned, you're going to be in the top right. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the way the correlation works. So we talked about that piece. Now I want to point out something. This is height and weight. Should height and weight generally be correlating fairly well? Yeah, sure. Okay, the correlation is 0.44. You see that? That's a good correlation. Don't be surprised. You're not going to see a 0.9 or